Well, we're in the warehouse and we've got two amazing new products in front of us here. And Marinus is going to take us through the Parabolic Springs, which we're going to try out on the vehicles, and the new Pro Shock. So I'm really keen to see this. So should we open up this box? It's looking,
let's open
and have a look-see.
and have a look how it looks.
Again, always packaged. So
So this is the remote reservoir shock that we recently released. So we had our Pro Shocks totally redesigned, redone. Nice stone guard to prevent the shaft from getting hit by stones. Nice high-end aluminium bracket that fixes it to hold the reservoir. And then you have your 8 settings basically, from soft to hard.
So you're dampening, it's a dampening setting.
Your valving settings, your dampening and your compression and so on. So when you're using your vehicle for everything, you're going overlanding, you're going off-road, you're going a lot of open road driving and so on, one shock can't handle all of the settings there. So Tamer decided to have it very comfortable or very easily settable
I must say, I do
shock
like
that you
that.
have.
I think that's fantastic.
Yeah.
You know, this is very easy to get in and just adjust to different settings.
So if you go off your bitumen road onto a gravel road or wherever we will get a lot of corrugations and so on, just pop out all 4 shocks, just set it to a softer setting and adjust it. When you get back onto the bitumen, set it a bit harder, whatever. If you're driving high speed, you have a lot of ease of setting. It's not special tools and you don't need to be a professional race driver to.
No, I think that's I found with a lot of shocks that get put in vehicles. It is a lot about adjusting the shock absorber for the terrain you're going to go on. I don't believe people always take the trouble and time to do it.
Yeah.
You know, you really got to get out, and so this makes it much easier.
Yeah.
I do like that feature. It's very easy to just get out, know exactly what number you need to put it onto, and set your shocks up. Once you've tested it and driven it, you felt it works.
Yeah.
And what would happen if a shock, if I had a failure in it, how would I be able to get parts? I mean, are there going to be parts available for them?
So these are serviceable shocks, so you can get the whole valving system, all the seals, everything you can get. So you don't need to replace your shock. Right. You can just service it. So it is a specialized job. It's not just something that you'll be able to do in your backyard. But most of the guys, most of your high-end mountain bikes and so on do have serviceable shocks.
Very similar.
So very similar. People, your racing guys and so on. So you should be able to get a specialist in your town that can assist you with servicing these shocks.
And we'll have people that we'll refer people to from here. As
well. Yeah, we'll get that great as well. So while you're letting down your vehicle's wheels and so on, you can. Your tires, you can just set the shock to where you want it, and very quick.
I think that's one of the things that's sort of under experienced by people is adjusting tire pressures and adjusting shocks for different conditions is definitely going to make a safer ride. At the end of the day, the reason we're putting advanced shock absorbers and adjusting tire pressures with ease is to make it safer.
Yeah.
And that's the whole, in my mind, that's the most important thing. Can you keep the vehicle on the road, these 4 little patches, safely on the road on all the different conditions? And as we know in Africa and other parts of the world, corrugations are tough to drive on, and the shocks work really hard.
There's a lot of energy that needs to be dissipated.
And the remote reservoir, that design is obviously giving more oil.
So We'll still discuss how shocks are manufactured and your difference between twin tube and monotube and all of that. So this is a monotube design. Yeah. So it's basically your cylinders running on the tube that you can see here. Yes. So the heat is dissipated much quicker and so on. So in your remote reservoir there's actually a small amount of oil in there, but then you put in nitrogen gas that's under pressure. So this one is about 150 psi. And that prevents your oil from cavitating and creating bubbles.
Exactly.
And it keeps it basically foaming from foaming. So as soon as it starts foaming, then you lose all your dampening properties. So
if you had the very old shock absorbers you used to get that were mostly just an oil shock before they introduced gas, a long time.
Yeah.
Most shocks now have a gas element to
Yeah.
it, but obviously this is controlled where you can increase the pressure and you can put an adjustment.
Yeah, so basically you are setting this valving system where the oil moves through, so it becomes harder or softer or whatever and so on. So, but the gas is the big thing to assist the oil from basically boiling or creating small bubbles.
Keeps the pressure on the oil, so as the oil heats up, it doesn't develop bubbles. Like taking a bottle of Coke and opening it too quickly and it just bubbles everywhere.
That pressure on the inside of the Coke prevents the bubbles from forming.
Exactly.
So and then the monotube, it's just much quicker how the heat dissipates from there. So
well, look, I know they've put a lot of work in these. We're going to be fitting a suspension like this to one of our project vehicles, and I'm really looking forward to that because it's a big build. We've stripped the vehicle right down to the chassis, so we can get right in and have a look. But now talk to us about these beautiful rear springs.
Your parabolic leaf springs, it's a very old design. So a lot of trucks and so on uses this design. Terrain Tamer just said, okay, but why don't we use that as well? And there's other suspension manufacturers also using parabolic. So we're definitely not the first. It's not unique. No. It's just our design is a bit unique. And this one here is our heavy-duty parabolic leaf spring. So with leaf springs, you've got all of these leaves packed together. And these days, most of the guys, or most of the manufacturers, put an anti-friction pad in between, because the biggest thing about leaf springs is that friction between the leaf springs.
Well, a lot of movement. The old ones used to rust together. They didn't have a leaf spring anymore.
So there's a solid spring then. So with all of these leaves packing together, you need to overcome all of that friction before it starts moving. Now with our parabolic leaf springs, you don't have the leaves touching each other. It's basically just through the friction pad, where there's actually very few friction, small amount of friction there.
Absolutely.
And then because of the design of the leaf, you don't need 7 or 9 or whatever leaves. You can get away with, in our lighter duty springs we only have 2 leaves, and in our heavy duty we've got the 3 leaves.
So the range will allow you to cater for different weights that are going into the vehicle, much like the other ones would.
No.
Okay.
So it's all about what's your permanent load on your vehicle. Yes. Someone carrying a big camper, or like the troopies that you are doing, they are more heavy than...
It's a constant load. I think what people often don't always quite get is that your spring carries the weight of the vehicle. Okay. And then the shock absorber stops the rebound and dampens that. So as the spring flexes and comes back up, that's the work of the shock absorber to stop it over bending and control it, should I say? It's probably better. So very unique. I'm really excited to fit these in, because parabolics, as you say, I have fitted parabolics on other vehicles, but not on a cruiser, and I'm really excited. So look forward to that.
So it's a much more comfortable ride with the less friction, and then the weight of the leaf is also much lighter than your conventional leaves. So that unsprung weight that needs to move with the axle, it's much lighter. So it's a much more comfortable ride. And then you also get the advantage of ground clearance. Within the cruiser, it's a underslung suspension setup. So the thicker your
pack, you're losing
is basically you're losing ground clearance. So a lot of times what we find is, if you put the parabolics on, the diff pumpkin is basically your lowest point, and no longer your leaf springs anymore.
Well, I think that's always a saving grace. Depends how we drive. But so fantastic. Well, look, we've got a warehouse full of parts. We're going to make time to start going through different parts we can find and share the value of what Terrain Tamer have done to improve the design, some of their ethos and their thought process. And that's interesting. I really look forward to all that. So thank you again.
No, thank you, Paul.